Welcome to LANTITEPrep.com. In this lesson, you will watch a refresher all about decimals to help you get totally prepped for your LANTITE exam. Without further ado, let's begin. Starting with recalling that a decimal is a number that represents a fraction of a whole, such as 0.5, which means half of 1. Moving on, let's have a look at the example, 32 and 5/10. Notice that the decimal point goes between ones and tenths. Moreover, that the number 32.5 has 3 tens, 2 ones, and 5 tenths, like this. Now, in order to have a firm grasp of decimals for test day, you're going to want to have a good understanding for place value. So let's have a nice refresher about this too. Keep in mind that when we write numbers, the position or place of each digit plays a crucial role. Pause the video here to take a moment to study the visual on the screen now. Great. Now looking at this together, what do you see and what do you notice? First, I notice the decimal place right in the middle. Then I notice that there are 2 labels on the bottom, including whole part and decimal part. In the whole part section, I notice that we add numbers. To the left, the whole number gets bigger. Next, moving to the decimal part section, I notice first and foremost that there is not a onths section, but instead the decimal part starts with tenths. Furthermore, I notice that the decimal part labels all end in this. Now, looking back at the visual, we need to remember that the more numbers that we added toward the right of a decimal, the smaller the value of each number becomes. This means that numbers in the tenths place value are greater than numbers in the hundredths place value. Likewise, these numbers are greater than numbers in the thousandths place value, and so on and so forth. Excellent work so far, future teacher. On your LANTITE exam, you will likely be asked to solve problems with decimals. So let's give you a refresher for how that's done by starting with adding and subtracting decimals. What's most important here is keeping your work neat and always making sure to align the decimal points. Let's start with this example, 94.8 plus 3.721. Pause the video here and try to work the problem out. Come back when you're ready for the solution. Great. So first, I notice that there are some empty spaces in the top number, so I may want to fill those in with zeros. Next, making sure that the decimal points are correctly aligned. It's time to add. I'm going to start with the numbers on the right side. I'll add each of the columns until we reach our final answer. Again, notice that the answer's decimal is also aligned. Now, what happens if this problem was a subtraction problem instead? Pause the video here to solve this subtraction problem. Then come back when you're ready to check the solution. Great. Now in this case, you'll probably want to again add the zeros in the missing place values. Then making sure that the decimals are still aligned, you'll subtract this problem just as you would if it were a whole number. Then we'll find our answer to be 91.079. Next, let's practice our multiplication with decimals problem. See if you can solve the problem on the screen now. Then come back when you're ready for the solution. Great. So the solution here is 0.888. And the way I recommend multiplying decimals is simply eliminating the decimal points altogether and multiplying the numbers as if they are whole numbers. Remember, 4 times 7 is 28. 7 times 2 is 14. Add the 2 up top to give us 16. Put the 0 in the ones column and multiply 3 times 4, which is 12. And then take 3 times 2 plus 1, which gives us, and then add 168 to 720, and we're left with 888. And finally, it's time to add our decimal place in, keeping in mind that our original numbers were 0.24 and 3.7, and knowing that 0.24 has 2 place values after the decimal, while 3.7 has 1 place value after the decimal. So there is a total of 3 place values we need to account for. So in our answer, we'll put the decimals 3 place values over and get 0.888. So far, you've got addition, subtraction, and multiplication down. But how about if you receive a word problem on exam day and you have to complete this? 22 divided by 0.4. Take a moment here and see if you can solve this before we go over how to complete it. Alright, great. Let's work through this. For me, dividing whole numbers is easier than dividing fractions. So what I'm going to do is multiply both sides by 10 and we get 220 and 4. Now, keep in mind that what's important is you multiply both numbers by the same number. This helps eliminate the decimal in 0.4 but keeps the proportion the same from 22 to 220. Now we can take 220 divided by 4, which equals 55. And that's our final answer. Note that 220 divided by 4 and 22 divided by 0.4 will both result in the quotient of 55. Need more work with decimals? Enroll with our full test prep at LANTITEPrep.com and take our decimals quiz, as well as our full-length math practice tests, and get totally ready for test day. Thank you for joining this lesson, and I'll see you in the next one.